Welcome to Get Your Mind Right, the podcast where merchant services, digital marketing, and personal growth collide. Tune in for real talk, fresh insights, and the motivation to level up.
Good morning, John Johnson here, and welcome to Get Your Mind Right, Boots on the Ground edition. This is the world's only podcast devoted to digital marketing and merchant services professionals. With me this morning is Zeb Johnson. Zeb, good morning.
Morning. Honored to be here.
Well, it's great having you here. You know, you've been on my radar for some time now.
I was wondering when I get to make the cut.
well, you did. So, the folks on the show may not necessarily know who you are. I'd like you to share with them your origin story, how you got into technical service and what makes you so passionate about what you do.
Yeah, so my origin story is a little different from most people probably. So anyone that knows anything about Evolve knows that it's very family oriented. Mm-hmm. And Colin Baumgart, who's the deployment manager, has a little sister named Faith Baumgart. Mm-hmm. And she was my roommate for a long time. And so I heard about a job opening through her. So I came in and signed up and got to be a part of the team. So
gotcha.
That's how I got into technical services. I've always been a computer nerd. I've always been doing stuff on my computer, so it made sense anyway. But yeah, I just knew the right person and got in. And I'm really passionate about helping people. So I didn't know that when I first started. It was more of just need a job. It's something I like to do. Wanted to help the company wanted to help me, so it all worked out. But once I got going and I really saw how excited business owners were when I'd set them up, that made me passionate about the job, because I would set somebody up, maybe a mom and pop shop. And now that they can take credit cards, their business is going to start booming. And just how excited they get whenever I set them up, that's what drives me to do it.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of meat on the sandwich of this job. What we're really doing, and people come to the company, they don't realize how impactful what we do is on businesses and affects all their employees and their very fortunes, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of my very first installs was a lady that had already retired, started up her own little business selling quilts, and the second we got done with the install, she was just, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited!" Blah, blah, blah. Okay, this was nice. I like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's what made me passionate about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're moving the needle for people in their lives. You know anything about quilts, by the way?
I like them. They're nice and warm, but don't know anything about quilts.
Well, it's funny that comes up. I'll bring this up offline, but I had a whole discussion with my 24-year-old son about quilts last night, of all things. So it's a full circle here. Now, Zeb, you're the assistant technical services manager here. Tell me what that means.
Yeah, so 4 years ago when I had come in, I came in as pretty much the first installer was my job title. And, just keeping my head down, working hard, made it all the way up to that position of assistant technical services manager. And so basically what that means is I'm trained on just about anything in that room. So whenever we have somebody out, I'm going to be programming terminals, I'm going to be downloading, shipping, taking calls, just doing all the things if somebody is out. So my main focus is still installing people, but as the assistant manager, I've got to be able to do everything. So that's pretty much what that role entitles, is being able to do everything if someone is out or on vacation or whatever have you. So
you're cross-trained on everything.
Just about, yeah.
It's a lot to keep up on.
There's a lot of information that goes through that office.
How many product bulletins do we get from our vendors on a weekly basis?
When you say bulletins,
Updates, new features, products being sunsetted, new products being introduced.
so the sunsetting doesn't happen too often. That's about once a year that a product will get the boot. But we get updates, I'd say bi-weekly, just coming in every 2 weeks or so with brand new features. Invoice path hyphen just uploaded a brand new interface, so everything's completely changed. So there's a lot of updates coming in that I've got to stay on top of so I can train people properly on them.
Okay, very good. Let's talk about the tools of the trade that you have. I mean, you guys you're very driven by systems. Walk me through Mac and your ticketing process, and how you integrate and use these tools for more successful installations.
Yeah, Mac is a huge help. So, with 40 deals a week coming in, that's a lot to stay on top of. And so my guys in deployment, they're usually spending most of their day boarding these accounts, getting them set up in their virtual terminals, deploying the physical terminals, and it's a lot to keep up with. So they'll go into Mac, and we use what's called an installation needed ticket. And so in that ticket, they're going to go in and comment, hey, their virtual terminal's ready to go, or hey, we've shipped that terminal out, and they'll provide the tracking number in there. And so I'll use that ticket, and I will track that device that's getting shipped, and I'll see, okay, it's going to be there next Thursday. That way I know I can call them and get them set up. So we use that ticket religiously in my room just to know when we can set somebody up, and we use it to also notify the sales rep, hey, they have been installed. So check for processing on that, and that way if they are installed but aren't processing, that can let a rep know, hey, maybe I need to reach out and see what's going on. Maybe they just haven't taken a credit card yet. But that ticket helps me do my job every single day.
Gotcha. Well, you're painfully aware of this issue, and there are reasons that are known and unknown to me for this. That the sales reps don't necessarily follow this process, and although they may be turning that installation over to you, they may not be doing what they need to do on their end on follow up. I mean, you got. I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have reasons you suspect why it's that way?
Well, for a good sales rep, you got to have a lot of sales. So I know personally, if I was a sales rep, once I make that sale, obviously, I'm going to follow up, do a check-in, but I'm moving on to the next one. So I think that's the biggest key factor in that is these sales reps, they're driven. They get that from you probably, or a little bit from you, but I think it's just more of they're doing their job and they trust me to do my job.
Okay.
So I think it's more of just, okay, I got that deal closed, I'm moving on to the next one. A follow-up would be nice. I'm sure a lot of people do it and I don't know about it, but I think it's just moving on to the next sale.
Well, I know some time ago you guys went to templates and automated welcome packages, which is absolutely fantastic. Do you think that the reps could do a better job of using these things as a tool?
I do. I see a higher success rate in installations whenever reps do use those tools. 2 sales reps come to mind, your daughter being one of them, Whitney. I can see in the install ticket, she'll copy her email that she sends over to the merchant. Brianna Miracle does that as well, where they basically say, hey, I see your account's approved. Here's a link that you can schedule the install with Zeb. And that way, if I do call them, they already know my name, so that makes it easier to get in the door. But I see a higher success rate whenever reps do use that automated email system and they use that calendar link.
That is so easy to do, too.
It's very easy to do. It's actually scary easy to do.
Yeah. And as you know, as a rep, you don't get paid on anything until this guy starts processing.
That's what I hear.
So I just can't imagine folks not taking advantage of that, especially how easy you make it.
Yeah, closing the deal is great, but if they don't start processing, then it's a lot of time wasted.
Yeah, it's a lot of time wasted. So when I heard you speak about on this topic, Zeb, you talked about the importance of setup form and being very specific. Right? So what are some common mistakes and foibles that you see out there with this?
Yeah. When you go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress comes up to the table and says, hey, what can I get you guys? You don't just say food. You can get anything if you just say food. I'm hungry.
You can't just hand them the menu and say yes?
No, you can't do that. So, with bar sheets in particular, we need to know what type of bar sheet you want. You can't just say bar sheet. That's just like saying food at a restaurant when you're going to order. So we need to know what kind of bar sheet you want. We need to know what software it's going into, that sort of thing. But other than that, it just helps to communicate that sort of thing. So if you're getting a terminal, let us know what you want in the terminal. Just like back to the food thing, if I'm going to get a burger and I order just a plain burger, and it comes with all the extra stuff on it, you got to know, what I want or what I want to order for that person, so that way they get what they're asking for. So yeah, just letting us know, simple settings that they want, like tips, auto close, things like that on the setup form. That just really helps us program the terminal correctly, so that when it gets there, it's just plug and play, and we don't have to sit there and mess with the settings or set them up and then get a call 2 weeks later saying, hey, this isn't set up correctly, and then we never knew that they needed certain things. So just putting settings, correct equipment types, tell us as much as you can on that setup form, so that way you get what you want.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, one of the things you also said is VAR needed is not acceptable. That is a quote here.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what the reps should be communicating to you instead. What's a really great setup form look like for you?
I mean, a really great setup form would just exactly what I just said, basically. Just tell us what you want on the burger, essentially, so we can make the burger to your liking. If you need a bar sheet for a certain software, just let us know that software name, and so that way when we request the bar, it's going to work perfectly when we plug it in.
Gotcha. Not that hard.
Yeah, not hard.
Another line that you had in your talk about this is you said all the right questions to reduce merchant touch points. So,
yes.
As you know, I love magic questions. What are those magic questions for you?
Magic question number one is just going to be, what time do you guys close at the end of the day? What time are you shutting down the shop? So that way we know, okay, we can set this auto close so that it's not going to affect your middle of your day. It's not batching out while you're trying to do business. So
right.
That's magic question number one, is what time do you close? How quickly do you need your money? That's also going to affect that auto close. But really just the magic question is just, how do you operate? So that way we know, okay, this is a counter service restaurant that does take tips. They don't want it on the screen, maybe they want it on the receipt. So magic questions: when do you close? How do you operate? I'd say for not being a sales rep, those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm programming their terminals.
Okay. And it's been a while since I saw you talk about this. Was this in the context of you gathering up these magic questions, or the sales rep?
A little bit of both. I think with experience, I've been able to determine like what things help us in deployment, but definitely sales reps have added in on that.
Gotcha. So of course, the more the sales reps add in, the better that's going to be, because they've been with the merchant. Chances are they've had boots on the ground in that merchant shop. Yeah, I gotcha. Let's talk about Zoom installs. How many hours a day do you reckon you're on Zoom?
Give or take, I'd say an average is about 4 hours a day.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
You prefer that over a phone call?
Absolutely. So with these virtual terminals that are becoming more and more popular, it's very frustrating for me as the installer to guess what's on your computer screen. When we're doing virtual terminals, there's no equipment involved usually, so everything's virtual. And when I can do a Zoom call and you can share your screen with me, I know exactly where your mouse is, I know exactly what page you're on, and it makes the process so much smoother when I can say, okay, no, you need to go to the left a little bit. Yeah, that's the button. Where you're highlighted, that's what I want you to click on. Or we're not on the right page, we need to go back. So being able to see their screen was a game changer. So yeah, I don't even do virtual terminals unless I can do that Zoom meeting, which everyone can do Zoom.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an account or anything. Since I have the account, they can just join right in.
Camera on or camera off?
That depends on how I'm looking that day. I'm kidding.
Oh, come on. It'd be impossible for you to look anything straight.
No, I usually do camera off just because I don't want the merchant to feel the pressure. If they want the camera on, they can do that. If I see they turn their camera on, I'll turn mine on.
Okay.
Just to match.
You're following their energy.
Yeah, I'll match their energy, but yeah, no, I typically leave it off. I even had one install about 2 months ago where I didn't have my camera on, and the lady goes, I can't see you. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have my camera on. She goes, I don't know if I want to do this unless you turn the camera on. So I flipped that thing on immediately. Wow. I was like, I'm here, I'm a real person.
Well, I'm glad she said that.
Yeah.
You don't have to guess otherwise.
Right, yeah, I like that question. That's a good question.
So when you're doing these virtual terminals in your Zoom, you mentioned a couple things, but overall, what sort of advantages do you feel like you get by doing it that way?
Really just being able to be on the same page. Like I said, it makes it a whole lot easier to see what they're doing. With the physical terminals, I'd say that's the biggest issue is I can't see where they're trying to plug things in, and I can't see the screen that their terminal's on. With Deja Vu, they are making that better. They have an app called AnyDesk where I can physically see their terminal screen as they're doing their day-to-day operations. But I'd say that's the biggest thing is not being able to see what they're doing, so that Zoom call eliminates that whole problem.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly here on your installs.
Sure.
You guys, you obviously you have a lot of great installs, and then some not so great.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Difference is the expectations that are set whenever the sale is done. If the expectation is, hey, you're going to get this terminal, you're going to plug it in, and you're going to be able to process that day, that's what they're expecting. So if that doesn't happen, that's a bad install. Again, that all goes back to making sure they're getting what they want, settings wise and everything else. Making sure they understand their pricing structure, that's a really big one. So a good install for me, whenever we're talking about pricing structure, is they already know what buyer's choice is. Knowing that dual pricing, it's going to raise that price on their terminal. A bad install would be if it raises that price and they go, why did it do that? Well, that should have already been explained before I get into the process.
So what's happened there? The rep didn't explain it correctly, it didn't stick, or maybe the rep didn't even explain it at all?
That could be, since I'm not a part of the sales process,
Okay.
It's hard for me to say what did and did not happen, but a lot of times I find myself being the one to explain buyer's choice, and then sometimes I'm even defending buyer's choice, trying to keep them on that program. So yeah, just making sure they understand how the terminal is going to work, when they can implement it, that's going to determine whether it's a good or bad install.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because once again, this is something that I feel is completely on the rep. Right, and they should make their customer keenly aware of these key points. I mean that's not your bailiwick explaining the justification what the rep put in. It puts you at a real disadvantage.
It does put me at a disadvantage, but again, I've done it for 4 years, and that program started right whenever I started, so I've kind of gotten accustomed. I've got a little script in my head that I use to calm them down if that is a pain point for them. I don't want my customers getting this fee. Well, it's not necessarily that. Maybe it's just, this is your price. As a business, you can set your prices to whatever you want them to be. Obviously, you want them to be competitive so that you're staying in the market, but you can set your price for whatever you want, and then you can offer discounts for whatever you want. And so this is your price, and then you offer them this cash discount. And that line alone has usually gotten me through that door and on to the next step.
You're off to the rodeo.
Yeah.
So I started this off with the good and the bad and the ugly. I want to dive into an ugly. Okay, give me one. Just it was a real mess. Give me a war story.
Yeah, that's difficult because I do so many a day, but I don't know. I couldn't give you an exact war story per se, but just the installs that they're not aware of, their pricing structure. They're mad that it's raising the price whenever they type it in. I had one install the other day where things weren't set up on the terminal, like gift card wasn't set up properly, so we had to go through during the install process, and I'm sitting there programming their terminal on the phone with them, so that's taking up their time, wasting their time. And then there's questions about, well, I was told this during the sales pitch, but you're telling me this other reason. So like funding, next day funding, for example. They were told that they could batch out at 2 a.m. and they'd receive that money that morning, basically. And while there are ways that you can pay extra maybe to get that next day ACH, that's usually not the case. So whenever I'm on the phone with them saying, hey, you have to batch out at this cutoff time to receive these funds the next day, they're basically being told otherwise by a sales rep. So I'd say the worst installs are the ones where expectations aren't set properly.
Gotcha. Gotcha. You had a call out too about how important that inventory setups and app customizations are vis-a-vis for Clover. So
Yes.
why is personalization so critical with Clover systems then?
Yeah, so whenever you get a Clover, unless you submit the menu in at the time of onboarding,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get that Clover blank. And so a lot of the expectations that are set are you're going to get this POS system and you're going to be able to just start. So that's usually not the case. Normally, I'm the one that gets the menu sent and I'm the one putting it in there for them. So just setting that expectation of, hey, we're going to have to work on this menu is very important to the
Okay.
process.
Okay. So where's the typical fall down on that process?
It's different case by case. So like with our company, we are able to give people Clover at a cheaper price. And then with that app customization,
Mm-hmm.
we can download apps to the Clover that help them do the buyer's choice program. And so that's oftentimes what we're doing is we're replacing their old Clover with our Clover and doing that app to put the buyer's choice on there. And so people think that when they go from Clover to Clover, their menu's still going to be there, but it's not. And I think that's a misunderstanding with sales reps that Clover to Clover, everything's just going to transfer over. It's simple, but it's not that simple. It's easy for me to drag and drop things into their new account, but it is a process that has to take place for them to be able to have their customized menu, have their pricing set correctly, and all of it just start working for them as soon as they plug it in. So.
Okay. Okay, very good. Very good. Now, I know your team does a lot of Adello installations, and
Yes.
that's a bifurcated process. You guys do the hardware and the software trainings done as well, so elsewhere. So what advice would you give the reps listening to this call on how to best position that with their merchant?
Block off a good amount of time on your calendar for that.
Okay.
That's the first thing. It's
When you say good amount, what do you mean by that?
you know, a lot of people think that because most of my installs are 30 minutes or maybe an hour if it goes long, that's how Adello is going to be.
Uh-huh.
That is not the case with Adello. I've done installs in the past. Another war story for you is, you know, sales rep went out on location, booked my time for an install, and the first 45 minutes of that was them unboxing all the equipment.
Oh,
So
pain.
you got, you know, with Adello, you got tablets, you have cash drawers, you have printers, you got pin pads. There's a lot of equipment that's involved, and you got to get all of that set up and connected to the network properly. So that's the biggest pain point, is making sure that we're all on the same page and making sure that they can set all of that up, and that takes time.
Uh-huh.
So it's not just your simple, just take out a single terminal and plug it into an Ethernet cord. You got sometimes 6 to 8 different devices that you got to get unboxed and you got to get plugged in, and that's just the hardware. The second recommendation that I would have is using the scheduling website that Adello offers. I keep it on my computer at all times. Basically, once that hardware is set up by us, because Adello is so complex as far as all the different features that they offer, it's a great solution, but there's a lot that goes into just learning that one solution and deployment. We have about 30 solutions under our belt that we are all trained on, so having that one on top of it is a
Mhm.
lot to retain for us. So
Mhm.
keeping that scheduling website is huge, because as soon as you set up that hardware, you go on the scheduling website for Adello and you just book that time right then and there while you have the merchant with you. So that way, hey, are you free on Tuesday at 10 o'clock? Boom, I'm gonna book that. And then that way their hardware set up, they can get trained right away by the experts at Adello, and then they're ready to start using it. So keeping that scheduling website's huge.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. I know you guys are doing a lot of Deja Vu Pro now. So what sort of prepping should the reps be doing for their merchants in order to avoid headaches?
Prepping, definitely setting the right expectations. It's
Mhm.
going to be a big one. The menu, just like Clover and Adello, having a menu prepped and sent in to us helps us, because we can actually have that programmed on the back end. We have access to their back-end website
Okay.
with Deja Pay Pro. So we can have that menu in there. Anything like discounts or employees, that's a big one that you have to program in. So sending us as much information as possible so that we can program that back-end site that will automatically take effect on the terminal. So the more information, the better.
Gotcha.
You can send us employee list, you can send us their PIN codes, we can program all of that in on the back end. Sending in that menu really helps.
So for your team, give me an order of magnitude difference as far as time commitment and difficulty if you're going to stack up Adello against Clover against Deja Vu Pro.
Yeah, I'd say Adello definitely takes the most time because you're working with multiple pieces of hardware that all have to be connected to the same network. You can't have one on Wi-Fi and then one plugged into the router over there. So Adello definitely has the most time commitment. With Clover and Deja Pay Pro, those are a little bit less extensive, so those don't take as long, but you still want to give it a good amount of time and set the proper expectation that, hey, we're going to have to work on the menu, make sure everything looks good for you. We got to set up the hardware, and then that's usually a good hour, and then you got another hour of training where you go through set up orders, ring them up, show them how that looks, tipping out your servers, closing your reports, what do the reports look like. So there's a good hour of training and an hour of setup.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is if I'm a rep, I need to be communicating that to my customer on Deja Vu Pro here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 2 hours implementation.
Probably. And
Yeah.
it can be less if people are tech savvy. I've had people where I call them and they're like, yeah, I've already got it set up. What do I need to do now? I'm like, you just need to use it. If you don't have any questions,
Okay.
go. But
Okay.
then you have the other people that, we had one recently where I actually went out to location to help them set it up because we didn't think a phone call was going to do it justice. So it just all depends on your customer. So if you can gauge how tech savvy and how experienced your customer is with restaurant POSs, then you can kind of gauge that expectation and say, okay, well, for you, this is going to be easy. Or for you, we're going to need to be a little bit more hands-on.
Yeah, I'm hearing you talk about all this, and it seems to me that if I'm a rep and I'm unsure about this, I should just give you a call and say, hey, I got this merchant going in. What do I need to collect here, Zeb? What sort of expectations should I
It never hurts to give us a call. I'm more than happy to take that 5-10 minutes to help you with that process beforehand than spend 2 hours trying to fix it later. So yeah, you can always call in, and all of my guys can talk to you about it. It's not just me. I am the main installer, but all of my guys have had their hands in it. They know what the process looks like, so they can all help as well. So
I made this when I was young in business development. I made this mistake because I really believed that once the deal was closed, that was kind of the end of it for me, right? But from the customer experience, it's not. I mean, that's really the beginning of it for the customer experience. And I've also learned that you get off to a rough start on your installation, man, you're digging out of a deep hole. Because again, that's the customer's mindset. This is what my experience is going to be looking like, right? On the other hand, they get off to a strong installation on that, and it's a good process, and they have wrinkles later on. It's not such a big deal, right? Because you've established the fact that you're competent and you're committed to the customer being satisfied.
Yeah, absolutely. A good install, for me, obviously everything goes to plan.
Yeah.
But then the merchant touch points that we had said earlier, if I don't hear from that merchant and I see processing throughout, that's great. Because that means they have everything they need. They're using it with confidence. That's great. So yeah, absolutely. Getting a good start with that install is huge for confidence down the road.
So Zeb, what's your take on this when the merchant is installed and the rep is now ready to segue that customer to get them PCI compliant, and then for them to funnel future calls into customer service? What do you see best practices for that?
Well, I kind of handle that for
Oh,
them.
you do?
Yeah, so at the end of the call, and I'm going to kind of work off my internal script here, so I apologize if this sounds regurgitated, but basically at the end of the call, especially with the virtual terminals, at the beginning of the call, I'll send them a Zoom link so that they can join into the Zoom. And so once the call is completed, I know they're trained, I'll say, okay, do you have any questions for me before I let you go? And if they're, no, I'm good to go. Okay, well, the Zoom link that I sent you at the beginning of the call, that is my personal work email. You are more than free to email me any minor questions that you have. Other than that, the signature of my email has the tech support phone number in there. So that way they immediately know, okay, I have a contact that I can email for questions. I have a Monday through Friday tech support line that I can call as well. And then I'll also explain that option 1 is tech support. Option 2 is customer service. And so they can help with anything revolving around your merchant account, PCI compliance, deposits, statements, anything like that. And so once I bring that up, hey, by the way, have you done your PCI compliance? No, I don't think I have. Okay, well, just give me a second. I'll call over to customer service. They're in the office next to me. I'm not sending you across the country or anything like that. Let me get you over to a rep over there and they'll knock out your PCI compliance. And that's usually
bada boom, bada bang.
And sometimes they don't have time for it, which is fine. They have the information now to call in and get that done. So I usually handle that myself.
So Zeb, you've sat down on, I'm guessing, hundreds of installations now. If you decided to boil this down to one thing that the reps could do to ensure greater merchant success and greater success even on your end, what would that one thing be?
One thing, oh man. I think just setting the proper expectations would be the biggest thing. Just making sure they're aware of how the process should look and making sure that we have the information over on the internal side to give them the product that they're expecting.
Yeah, so I don't normally turn to the camera, but for you reps here that are listening to this, this is an easy thing for you to do. You could call Zeb or you can call in his department for advice on this when you describe the sale, or you could call sales support on this. But once again, spending just a few minutes up front and getting a successful implementation is a lot easier than going after the fact and just trying to have to retrade the deal with the customer just because they didn't understand the installation or all the ramifications of it.
Absolutely.
So, you're knee deep in the real world side of actually making this work and getting the merchant up and processing. We've got a lot of new reps that listening on this podcast. Zeb, what would be your advice to them on how important the follow through is and what that means to the merchant for the rep doing that?
It means a lot to the merchant. I've had a few calls, this doesn't happen a lot, but I've had a few calls where, I set the merchant up and they're like, yeah, I can't get a hold of my sales rep. And that hurts. Yeah, that hurts to hear for me, just being a part of the company that I love, but it doesn't look good. So just being there post installation, even if it's just an email saying, hey, I saw you got installed, I'm here for you if you need anything. It doesn't even have to be a problem solving type of reach out to the merchant, but just letting them know like, hey, saw you got installed, glad to have you. I'm here if you need me, just being a point of contact, because sometimes, if they call on a weekend, we're closed. We offer those after hours numbers so they can still get support, but just having another point of contact that they can reach out to in case they need it is huge, and that means a lot to them.
Yeah, that's massive. All right, so I'm going to give you a magic wand here, Zeb. All right, and you can fix one customer install related issue across the board. What would you use that one use magic wand for?
If I had that one use wand, I would probably wave it and say some sort of spell that makes business owners available when I call. I think minus all the stuff, I make plenty of mistakes. I don't expect sales reps to be perfect. Out of all of that, the biggest challenge I then face is getting the people on the phone. So I probably leave a lot more voicemails in a day than I actually make contact. So if I could wave my wand, it would just be a spell to make all the people available to me whenever I call.
Okay. Because you've got a schedule as well.
Yes. I have my own schedule, and I do understand business gets busy. So I definitely understand that, these business owners have way more issues to deal with than just accepting my call and getting installed on their new product. But yeah, I'd say if I could change anything, I would just change that part of it to, hey, I'm here to call you and set you up on the new credit card machine. Okay, perfect, let's do it every time.
Gotcha. So, I'm through the interview portion of this, Zeb. Are you fielding personal questions today, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, because I learned something about you on Friday that I did not know.
Okay.
You're a music composer.
Yes, I am. So back whenever COVID hit, we were all in lockdown, and I was just sitting at home with a computer, and I've always really enjoyed music, just the listening portion of it, if you will. But yeah, I was locked in during COVID and had a computer, and I did a little bit of YouTubing and figured out how to download a program on my computer where I can make any type of music that I want. So it's not as impressive as it sounds whenever you say I'm a music composer, because I don't play any instruments. I can dabble on a piano, but really all of my stuff is just making music on a computer through virtual instruments. But yes, I do that.
And you have a keyboard.
I do have a keyboard. I have 2 keyboards, 3 guitars, a trumpet, a flute, a violin, and a banjo.
You have these physical instruments.
Physical instruments that are all stocked up in my music room.
Okay.
Collecting dust, by the way.
But you do play the keyboard presently.
Yeah, I play it not well, but I can get around on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's this? Is this just a hobby, relaxation thing, or is this something you're actively working to develop your skill set?
Actively working to get better at it. Sometimes I'll make an instrumental and I can sell it to somebody that likes it. So sometimes it's a little bit of a moneymaker, but very rarely. It's more of just a working on it to get better. I really, really enjoy it. It makes me, it's almost like therapy to me. Whenever I sit down and work on something and it turns out really good and I like it, it's really therapeutic for me. Kind of like how people like going to the driving range and golfing and just focusing on that one thing. So it's therapeutic in a way, and it's just a really good hobby to get me out of my zone and focused on something.
I think that's really interesting. Are you a Beatles fan, by the way?
Not enough to tell you a bunch of songs, but when a Beatles song comes on, I'm pretty happy about it.
Okay. Well, I bring that up because this has been some time ago, but they released an anthology, which is, it's just buku amounts of Beatles music. And what's really interesting is they'll have like a demo cut. And one of the Beatles songs I love, it's a Lennon composition called Strawberry Fields Forever, right? Okay. So Lennon is just playing it on acoustic guitar, and you're like, okay, this is just another acoustic guitar. But George Martin, who is considered one of the greatest music producers of all the time, he produced the Beatles. And his production of that song, it's just something unbelievable. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's something just unbelievable and extraordinary when you listen to it. And it's because of what he took of this music composition and everything that he built around it. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, no, I love finding out those little tidbits about music that you love and finding out how it was made. I love doing that. Yeah, and I'm actually starting a YouTube channel for Evolve. It's going to be the Evolve terminal guide, where I'm going in and showing how to run sales on terminals and then just popular features. And for the YouTube channel, I actually produced a beat that's going to be like laying over top of the YouTube channel. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I got it sent off to Kendall. She's going to work on it.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Now, I understand you had a couple questions for me before we wrap up today.
Yeah, it's not often that I get to pick your mind, so
I'm a little scared here.
I was going to take that opportunity.
Generally, it's me asking the questions.
Yeah, I talked to the other people. I was like, "Did you ask John any questions?" They're like, "No."
No, you're the first.
Yeah, I was like,
"You're the first."
I'm picking his brain.
Yeah.
So, first question I have is routine. How important is a routine to you? And then, if so, what does a good routine look like to you?
Yeah, so you mean, so you're talking like just professionally or personally?
It can be either.
Okay, well that makes it easier because now I think I answered my own question. So for me, like routine personally and professionally, it's all melded together. And over the years, people make fun of me because they look at my calendar and I've got things there like call Stephanie, my wife, on this, and that will be next to an appointment I have, and then there may be a dentist appointment down below that, right? But for me, my whole life is defined by my calendar and what my commitments are. So that routine is incredibly important to me, Zeb. You know, like for example, there's people that my wife is one of them. Is she really does not like having items on her calendar because she feels that that's like bondage for her, like she's tied to that. And I don't view it that way. For me, it is the absolute opposite of that, because it prioritizes things that I want to get done and I need to get done. Like for example, if I put something on there, I need to call my wife about something at a certain time, that's important.
Yeah.
Like in me not forgetting and reaching out to her,
Yeah.
that signals to her that's important too. The other thing that I find on putting things on my calendar, it actually takes a lot of stress out of me because I do not have to make as many decisions. I mean, I know what your job is, and you make a bazillion decisions a day.
Yeah.
And I would bet there's sometimes you get home from work and you don't even want to think about what you're going to eat that night because it means it's another decision, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing for me. This decision fatigue is a real thing in our society today. And my calendar makes that really easy because, like you, I get calls and things are urgent. And now it's a matter, I look at my calendar, okay, what on today, if I want to get this done today, is less urgent than I can move. I make my decision just like that,
Right.
and it's less anxiety.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of the routine right there for me.
Yeah, and writing things down, I always feel like makes you more amped to do them.
Yes.
So I do that as well. I try to write things down as I'm planning, so that way I've put it on paper.
Yeah.
It's more likely that I'll do it than instead of just a thought of like, hey, I should go to the gym.
Yeah.
But if I write that in my planner, I'm more likely to do it.
That you're exactly right, and you're also I know this by your reputation, work with you. You know, you're a responsible guy, and the fact that you write things down that's really important. You know, if you're one of those people where people are telling you, hey, now I want you to write this down, you have a problem with organization when people are telling you that.
Right. Yeah.
Here, I want you to take my pen and write this down.
Yeah.
When you're told that, you need to take a hard look in the mirror because you are not organized and or you are forgetting things that are important.
Right. That actually reminds me, I created my own acronym. So
A Zebcronym.
Yes, a Zebcronym. So we just hired our first new installer, so this guy's going to be right under me. And so I created an acronym for what makes a good installer. And so I call it POKE, like a Facebook poke.
Okay.
So to be a good installer, you need patience with the merchant. You need to be organized with yourself. You need to have knowledge on all the products. And you have to be engaging whenever you're doing the install. Poke. That is the way to be a good installer, but organization is huge for that.
That K was a tough one. I was thinking kangaroo, guys, but no, knowledge.
Knowledge. You got to know the product to
Knowledge.
teach on it. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, I figured I'd take the BHAG and make it my own.
Your POKAG.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So my next question for you is, if you were to imagine me right now as you, 26 years old, because that's how old I was. That's why I said 26. But imagine I'm 26-year-old you sitting in this chair. What things would you say, hey, knock that off, don't do that? Or what things would you also say, hey, that's great, keep that up?
Wow, that's a great question. Let me think about this for a second. We have two different charges in our jobs, right? I can tell you when I was 26, I was in sales, and what I did a great job of, Zeb, was getting referrals, right? And really by the time I was 26, some number approaching 100% of my business came from referrals, okay? And I had people that gave me referrals on a weekly basis, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, everywhere in between, right? And I had lots of them, and I worked it. What my problem is I didn't really know what I had there. Although I had all these people and I followed up with them, there was no formal structure. And I didn't have a structure of expanding that network. It was all accidental.
Sure.
And what I mean by that, if I'd have been more intentional about it, if someone would school me up, like, I train folks on how to do this now,
Right.
it would have increased my business exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
My problem was when I was 26, I didn't have a ton of experience. And you know the phrase, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, not only that applied to me, I didn't necessarily realize that, hey, there's an issue here and I can make this a lot bigger. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm buying myself some time on how this applies to you. So, I think that I think that the analog for referrals for you is creating a bigger and stronger team there, right? And I look at what you did on the poke. That's the first I've heard of that, by the way. And that's great because that analogy is straightforward. It's easy for folks to remember. So, and it shows that we've got some things and some precepts in our business and what we do in the installation side to make us more successful. So I would say, well, I'm giving you a long answer here, but so going with this analog referrals to this, I just would encourage you to think about your experience and what you're doing to make you successful is, okay, how do I make this ready for prime time? How can I make this? Because your department is pretty much in a state of constant hiring, and it's going to stay that way.
Yeah.
So, how can you continue to spread that influence throughout that department?
I like that. Perfect. All right.
And focus on this, okay, because when you're 26, there's a lot of stuff you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So think, be cognizant of that and be forward thinking. Okay, here's some things I don't know. Well, is there a way to an answer on this?
Mm-hmm. I got you. I like that answer.
There's more questions?
Yeah, I got one more
Oh
question.
my gosh.
I got one more question.
You're pushing it.
I like this one though. So, this question, in my 4 years at Evolve, minus one prayer that even got me choked up, I've never ever seen you without a smile on your face in my 4 years here. And so my question was, how do you stay so positive?
Okay. You've never seen me without a smile?
Minus the one prayer.
Okay.
That even got me a little choked up. I don't think I've ever seen you, whether it's just walking through the hallway. You give me the little nod in the window every morning. I see you on meetings. I see you talking in the Evolve University, and you're always got a really good energy. So, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you where you're just like noticeably not in a good mood.
Okay. Well, so there are times that I am not in a good mood.
I'm very sure. Yeah.
So now I'm lucky because I don't know. Since I've been a teenager, God has blessed me with a great natural energy, and I didn't do anything to earn it. It definitely is a blessing. It came from my dad's side of the family. My sister has it. My dad had massive energy even at the end of his life. Okay, and that's a real advantage when that's part of your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Now you mentioned so for me, but you asked about the smile. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's an important lead in, the smile. This thing where I got a smile on my face, that's relatively new for me, Zeb, and believe it or not, that does not come to me naturally.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, I began to understand the importance of having a smile or even just a pleasant grin on your face, on the effect that has with other people and human interactions. This isn't just business,
Right.
okay? It's in all facets of your life. That is not an easy thing for me to necessarily do. Again, it doesn't come naturally. Just like anything else on training, it's easier now than it was a year ago, and it's easier then than it was 3 years ago.
I got you.
But sometimes I still have to focus on it.
Yeah.
I'm like everyone else. I have garbage days. People, dealing with human beings, they don't always behave or do the things that you want them to do, right?
Yeah.
So, but I made that commitment. I'm not going to be the thermometer, right? I'm going to be the temperature. And a lot of times you set the temperature by going into these situations with a big energy and a smile on your face. You know, this isn't just flailing around and pretending everything's fine, right? It's a difference between, and you see this all the time. People got a problem. It's, oh my gosh, you know, they're knitting their hands and their fists are balled up. You know, they're tense. It means attacking it with positivity.
Yeah.
And, you know, I find that you get a lot better results. You know, this thing on tapping on your window and waving at you guys, you know, it's easy because I you know this. I mean, it has to be sincere, right? Is that I like connecting with people, and it's an easy thing to do. You know, I've got a pretty good window to what you guys do in there. It's a tough job. I've been on enough installs to know that I would not be suited for that job. It's very, very stressful for me. And, you know, the last thing you guys need me to do is come in there and kick in the door, and I'm angry, and I've got a frown, I'm pointing and demanding answers on this. I mean, that's the last thing you need to do. You need, right? So yeah. I really, it makes it easier. I feel that I have indebtedness to all sorts of people for different things. The people I work with, if I want to lead, I got to lead by example. I owe them that, okay?
Absolutely.
And I come in, I have a bad day, or I'm not handling the situation right with you. I mean, that's the opposite of leadership.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing, again, this is a gift. I didn't do anything to earn it. Is we all know people that are grumpy in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not one of those people, right? I wake up and generally 5 minutes after rolling out of bed, I'm in a pretty good mood. I'm getting my mind right on what the day has.
Get your mind right.
There's that plug, right? But this is another facet I've layered in on my way to work, and there's a number of ways you can do this. Whether it's to listening to something positive, not news, not commenting on your podcast, but something maybe spiritual in nature. For some people, it's prayer. And for some people, it's meditation. And this is a recent habit I've integrated in my routine. And it has done amazing things for me.
Yeah.
Because I'll say it again, it gets my mind right, it gets me settled, it gets me focused, and really gets my day off to a great start.
Yeah, I gotta say, that's not the one, but that's my biggest thing that I always feel like I can work on, is trying to stay positive, and like you said, leading by example in my room.
Mm-hmm.
I have my garbage days as well, and I always feel like I can handle them better if I just be a little bit more positive. So that's the one thing that I feel like I should be working on, other than just learning and everything else. So that's why I wanted to ask you that, and it really is infectious. Whenever I see you with that big smile, I'm like, that makes me feel good. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing. So.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying it. Zeb, this has been fantastic.
Loved it.
I'd love to have you back on the podcast.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Pick a day, pick a time.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Sounds good.
So, folks, I hope you liked what you heard today. I hope you got some things that you can use. If you like what you heard today, hey, share it with a friend and hit that like and subscribe button. But until next time, for Zeb Johnson, I'm John Johnson, and I'll see you on Get Your Mind Right.